Hi guys, and welcome to my retro watches. Now, we've definitely got a retro watch in front of us today, and it is a very impromptu video because I was going to, and I still am going to film this jump hour. I'm going to restore this to as good as I can get, to be honest with you. More on that one in the next video. But I've been to the Birmingham Clock and Watch Fair today, which is a regular event here in the UK. Met up with some friends, and this was my find of the day. And it is totally and utterly bonkers, but it's very sci-fi, retro, futuristic, all in one mad bundle. And it's a Sicura, which are a half interesting brand, certainly in the jump hour world, because ironically only this week I also did this Sicura. This is a model that I've wanted for quite some time actually, and I came upon it in my Facebook group and made an offer, and I've managed to get it running. We'll show this in more detail again in the proper jump hour video. But like I say, I bought this one today. And what is so special about it? Well, first of all, what is a jump hour? Maybe some of you guys have not seen these before. So jump hours have been around since the late 1800s, I do believe. So pocket watches had a sort of disc display, if you will, and then there were some early wristwatches that had it as well. But I think they were more reignited in the 70s. And certainly this was a way of combating digital watches, whether they were LED or LCD in the early 70s. And a lot of Swiss manufacturers seemed to make jump hours. So we were making a mechanical watch with a digital display. We call it a jump hour. If I pull the crown and we wind this on, oops. There we go. You see the hour completely jump. So that's where it gets its name. This one, however, is pretty unique, and I think it might be quite rare nowadays, because this is, it says 17 joule movement, but it says Instalight electric, and we have a button here, and if we press that button, in theory, somewhere in here, it lights up. So it is a mechanical digital watch with a light. How utterly bonkers, but in the most strange alien-like looking case. Now I'm going to take it out of the case. We're going to see if we can get to the movement. It is kind of running. It ticks and stops, and the light doesn't work. Now I will confess that as soon as I got home, I got the case back off because I wanted to see inside this one, and it was at that point I thought, you know what, let's try and see if I can make a quick video. So here is said case back, and it has 4 screws which I have removed, and we have some battery covers, and the batteries that came out of this watch are here. Look at the state of these. I could even argue, because I can't even see any name on the back of them, that I don't know, maybe they've been in there since the 80s. Ugh. So it is going to be a disaster inside, but I'm going to take these off now, and I'll show you what's inside there. Right, there we go. You can see that they are really crudded up inside. It's interesting, we've got plus and a minus, and on the lids as well, we've got a minus on that one, and there's a big plus. Don't know if you can see that. And this one seems to have some sort of film over it, whereas that one doesn't. So I guess that's all to do with the way it connects. And then when you're pressing the button, the pusher is coming through here. So I'm hoping it's a fairly primitive circuit. Now I'm going to put that on the, well, I'm going to pry off the back first. No, I'll tell you what, we'll put it on the microscope as it is. Let's just have a look at that gunk in a little bit more detail so we can see it close up. I want to see the contacts at the bottom. So here we are on the digital microscope, and there's one and there's the other. So that's that lovely gunky stuff all close up. and I'm going to just have a little prod around. It is particularly appalling, isn't it? But we can clean it up. That's interesting. So it's like a little springlet. Okay, now I can see. So we've got a spring for the battery, and that's the contact on that one. Has this got a spring in this side? Possibly not. Oh no, I think it has. I think I can see it there. That's proper. Look at that. Absolutely fascinating. So normally I would, if this was a digital watch that I was repairing, I would sit here and painstakingly scratch all this out with these sharp tweezers. I can see a wire bond there, look. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to see how it strips down, because if we can get into this, the more I look at it, the more I can see how that thing's going. So I suspect it's a primitive circuit, and one that I might be able to repair. If we can get that bit out to clean, certainly put it in the ultrasonic or something, see how good it comes out. So let's get to the movement, shall we? This is the case top, if you like. Acrylic, and it covers the whole bottom. I think it's glued in. I've tried to push it a little bit. It doesn't want to move, and I certainly don't want to break that. Never going to find that again. It's got a square gasket, so I have to be a little bit mindful. I was hoping really to be able to remove the whole thing and put it in the ultrasonic, but have to clean it by hand, won't we? But the bit you want to see, you may be a little bit disappointed. Look at that. Let's just try and zoom in a bit. So look at that. So that's the battery damage that's managed to get on the dial there. And where's some pegwood? So you can see it sort of gathered all the way around that bit there. But that's about the only bit that shows. So all this damage here is okay in the sense that we can't see it. And we may see, it's just a bit of pegwood. Sorry, bouncing on the camera with the pegwood, so it's shaking. That might actually clean off. Have to do some sample marks, and it is, there we go. We just got a simple bulb there. So I'm going to put it back on the microscope, and we'll just see if the filament in that bulb is okay. And I can see one wire bond on one end, and I'm pretty sure it's okay on the other. Apart from, again, all of the battery damage, I think we'll be all right. I think the bulb is going to be okay. So it's just a case of getting it working and also getting in there and seeing the movement. So I'm going to remove these 3 screws and see what happens. So here's the dial out, and I did notice afterwards that top screw was different to the other 2. So I think someone's been in here before. No reason why it would be a different screw at all. Excuse the fingers. That's some of the problem. So the coils, or the circuit, is attached to this fairly primitive little board. So it is just a basic circuit, which is good in some respects. The bad bit is I like to clean this sort of stuff with alcohol, and that's going to be difficult because I don't know what alcohol is going to... Now my timographer has gone off. I'll tell you why, because it's picking up the movement. I'll move it out the way. So yeah, I've got to be careful that the alcohol doesn't damage the visible part of the dial. So I'll have to do some testing first. But I think we will try and pick away at some of that with some tweezers and an old oiler and things like that, and some of the fibre pen. So that's the first bit, or the interesting bit. Here, how about that? Equally fascinating. So we have a very small movement, not the one I thought it was going to be. Tucked away in there, and it seems to be ticking every now and again, certainly because the time grapher picks it up. So just looking at that stem, just wondering whether that was a split stem. It doesn't look like much of a visual. There's a little tiny button there. I think that's a screw. Yeah. Just looking here at this gap, whether that is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with split stems. So you just pull them really hard and they separate. You've got a male and female part. So I'm suspecting that's what that is, but I'm unsure. So for now, I'm going to try and concentrate on the dial. That there is a lump of solder, I think. Again, excuse me, I'm not using my normal camera, I'm just using my phone. So I kind of get the gist. I'm going to just do a bit more on the microscope and then get the alcohol out as well, see if we can test a few places to be sure it's not going to damage anything. So cotton bud with a little bit of alcohol, and as I thought, takes the ink off. Although it still doesn't look too bad, does it? No, it's coming right off there. So this side can't really do anything about. Question is, can we do anything with the alcohol on this side? So I think it's just going to be a painstaking chip it away and see what we can get at the end of it. This one's looking a bit better now. Now we can see some more. So I'll have to keep doing that, and I'm not going to film it all. It's going to be hours worth of work, isn't it? Let's face it. Okay, so I've just spent quite a while picking off all of that debris. You can still see it looks a bit rough, but it looks better than it did. Now, you will have seen in some of that footage as well that some of the coils of this spring completely disintegrated. But I'm not so worried about that, and I'll tell you why in just a sec. So I've also now used a little bit of wet and dry paper, and I've sanded down the tops of these, or the contact points of these, and it is basically a real basic it's a real easy circuit. So we've got the wire going through here to the bulb, and then this lump of solder is from the other side, and that would run up this little copper channel onto this contact. However, just here it's actually broken, and we can remedy that. I will put this on the microscope in just a moment, but I wanted to show you my theory, or try to show you my theory. So I've got a multimeter here. I can't get it in shot very easily, but I'm just going to put it onto continuity. And if I, let's just try and see if I can do it. So if I get one end just in this hole, so if you put it on the solder, you can hear there's a good contact, and then on the metal it does bleep. You can kind of hear it there. I'm trying to get it to do it continuously. There we go. So it is working. Still need to make it a little bit better. However, this side, it's okay. The solder works. All dead here. That's where the bit of copper shows. So if I put one end on the copper, one under the coil, I realise I'm probably blurring the shot, but you get the drift. It's not going to do it again now for me typically, but I've tested it and I think it's going to work. So I have some very cheap conductive paint. Comes in a little syringe. I will try and find it. Well, I will show you anyway. So it is here, and I've had this for ages, so it's actually gone a little bit gooey, but I use it on digital watches, or used to use it on digital watches for the same sort of purpose. So all I'm going to do really is just buff this up a little bit more to get some more of that copper showing, and I'm going to paint some conductive paint down onto the solder blob and let that dry. Now it does take quite a while to dry. It might take a day or so, but then that should give us the contact that we need. I'll continue cleaning these points as well, just for the sake of it. I guess there's an argument that you could get the soldering iron out and just melt the solder, perhaps even remove the springs and redo them, but I don't fancy doing that. I'm not into electronics at all. I'm crap at that sort of stuff. So it is looking rough and ready, but that's not what we're worried about, are we? The dial is still intact where we need it to be. There's a few little specks of bits and pieces which I'll get off with Rodico, but I'm now confident that we're going to get that to go. So I'm going to put it on the microscope just so you can see it a little bit clearer. Okay, on the scope, if you're hearing some noise in the background, it's just because it's raining on the flat roof of my garage. So you can see it still looks pretty rough, but we'll tart that up as much as we can, but a lot of that has gone. That's the circuit we're talking about. So you can see the copper is just eaten away really, and I'll just paint it right to the solder blob. But I will get some more. Whoops, I've moved it. Didn't mean to do that. I will get some more of the copper showing here, so I get a good contact. And of course, I'll clean some more of this up as well. And then that's that spring, which has fared a little bit better. Still looks horrendous. It's got this sort of black coating on it, strangely. Now, I don't know whether that's from the battery or whether that was there to start with. I can't believe it would be, because this must be the contact point for the battery. So hopefully it's going to look a little bit better by the time I'm finished. If it doesn't, but it still works, that is really all that matters, isn't it? Okay, so I've got to try and now talk over the rain, because it's pouring down and you might be able to hear it in the background. The stem. So the stem is a split stem. It was not the easiest thing to remove. You've really got to pull it hard. I actually managed to get my smallest pink end screwdriver just in the sort of slot. I managed to twist it a little bit, which did help it. So now that is out, I can undo those 2 screws and we can see the movement. It must be like almost like a lady's movement in here. So the problem I've got now is to get that screw out. This one's just free spinning because of course it's screwing into plastic. It doesn't seem to be attached to the movement of any great magnitude, so I'm going to just try see if we can get it past it, and then I can actually try and get that screw out without damaging anything. But alas, no, it is still looped over there. You can see it just wants to turn and turn and turn and turn, so I have to try and lever that and turn it at the same time, which is not an easy task. Actually, I've just said that, and I think the movement has come. Has it come above it? No, it hasn't, has it? Yes, we can get it. And there it is. First time of seeing it. Haven't got my finger cuts on. But you know what? That doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad at all. And I'm reluctant to, as the rain absolutely hammers down, I'm reluctant to service the whole thing, because if I'm going to get that circuit going, on some of these that I've seen before, these are riveted on, proving to be very difficult to get off. So I might do a half service. I might just take off this back end, get to the train. Excuse my fingers, it's not professional, is it? Maybe just clean up these jewels, clean up the balance, see if it's going to run good enough for, at least for this video anyway. So it still looks really rough, but I think it's good enough to try and paint the conductive stuff on, which I'm going to be quite liberal on. Like I say, this stuff is really cheap, like £3, £2 or £3 a little syringe. It does go a little bit funny, but if you mix it well, it comes back to life. And I've used it lots of times for little traces. So it might require a couple of layers. We'll have to see. And I might help it out a little bit with maybe a hairdryer. But there we go. That should produce a contact. Right, we're back. The paint is dry with the help of my wife's hairdryer, unbeknownst to her. So we need to test that. So the multimeter again to continuity. And let's see. Oh, nice positive tone. Right up to the top of the coil as well. I say nice positive tone. But look, that's 100% making a circuit. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So it doesn't look very pretty. It looks really rough actually, but it's going to work. So I just need to put some batteries in the case and fit that dial without the movement. Let's just test. Dying to see if that light's going to work. Okay, it is the moment of truth. I haven't pressed this button. It'd been really tempting, just me, but I want to do it on film. So, is it going to light up? What's your bets? Yes or no? There it goes. Never have I been so excited about a little poxy bulb like that. Look at that. It definitely works. It looks a bit dim, but to be fair, I've put some crap batteries in as well at the moment. I need to get some proper silver oxide batteries for this. But hey, that is a winner. definitely a winner. Great. Well, that's that main problem sorted. It's really, really tempting, isn't it, to attack that dial and do something with it. But I am not going to do a thing. I'll just dot it with some Rodico just to get some of the specks off. Remember that if I just bring in the case, we're only going to see that bit. We can't even see the light lighting up. These things are absolutely covered in crap. I'm hoping the light is still working now, actually. I've put that on there. I don't think it is. Ooh. Oh no. Okay. Hopefully the case isn't making part of the circuit corrupt. We'll find that out later on. So I'll clean the case up a little bit, this bottom bit, and we'll have a little quick look at the movement, probably under the microscope to start with. So we're looking at the movement now on the digital microscope, and just proof that it is a pin pallet. So when you hear the word pin pallet, what does that mean? So if you're into watches, or if you're not, you'll understand now. The thing that you can see, the wheel right at the bottom is the escape wheel, one with all the little teeth on it, and it's binding with the pallet fork. I'm going to have very much difficulty trying to show you this. So this is in theory the pallet fork, and you've got one metal pin there, and there's actually another one elsewhere under the plate there actually, and they're letting it go and holding it for each beat, and they're just metal, so it's pins, hence pin pallet. So metal on metal. We have a 17 joule movement that has no joules on the pallet fork, which is really odd to me. Why would you put that much effort into putting joules in, but you wouldn't do the bit that really is going to help the movement? All I want to look at now is everything else. So that's the shock joule on the balance, which I can see right in the center there. This looks like a bit of old oil debris, so I'll have to clean that out. And then if we just look at all the other joules, hard to get them in focus or get some decent light. So that one's all covered in gunk, so we can sort that out realistically with just a little bit of Rodico to start. Oops. There we go. So obviously it needs a bit more than that. Similarly with that one's got some debris waiting to get in it, and by the looks of it, there's quite a bit in the middle. That one's got a great big hair stuck into it. The escape has got a little cover plate, so that's keeping that one fairly protected. And there's nothing else to see really. Just trying to see where the barrel is. So this here, I think, should really zoom out, is the barrel arbor. So that's not jeweled either. And I'll have to put a bit of grease into there. So I'm going to clean these off camera. Unfortunately, this movement is so incredibly small that even with my big camera, I'm not going to be able to catch all the footage that I'd want to. So I'll have to cop out. As I say, I'm not going to strip it down just yet. I'm just going to clean these, get that one out as well, and re-oil the whole lot, and then see if we can get some sort of reading on the time grapher to see how healthy it looks. I'm not expecting much with a pin pallet anyway. They never look very good on a time grapher, but if it's good enough to tell the time, then it's good enough to go back in the watch. Certainly for this one, it's not one I'm going to be wearing all that often, if at all, to be quite frank. So watch this space. We'll be back in a minute, maybe with some oil shots. just as I was fucking expecting, really. Through more misfortune, I've got a top tip for you. So not only did I manage to break the shock jewel spring, which you hopefully would have saw on the microscope, but I then managed to also lose the shock jewel once I removed it to clean it, because obviously you get the two parts. The jewel is now here. Here is my lump of Rodico that I used to get it out, and what happened is the jewel separated from the chanton underneath, and I didn't realize that. Cleaned it all in the ultrasonic in a little basket, as I always do, and the jewel stayed in the Rodico, and then I used the Rodico for other things and I couldn't find it. And so out of the adversity, I knew it had to be in there somewhere. I basically tore up little bits of Rodico, got my pegwood and used it as a rolling pin, as you can see, and stretched it and stretched it. And would you believe I did this entire blob, which took some doing, and it was the very last bit that actually had the jewel in it, but it did find it. Now, as amateurs, we do seem to lose all kinds of things in Rodico. Certainly jewels, I've lost screws in it as well. So this technique is not a bad technique to find your parts fairly quickly. So there we go. I'm now going to fit the jewel, hope to see if the movement will actually run half decent, even though it's only got half the shock jewel to protect it. So here we are on the time graph, having lots of problems, to be quite honest with you. The movement holder is not capable of holding this steady enough, and then I can't really put just the movement in the time grapher as well, because it's so small. Things either touch the disc if you want to do dial down and so on and so forth. I've seen amplitudes of 250 and now it's rocking 121. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm very disappointed, and it still could be, some of that could be the shock jewel spring, because it's not holding it in place and it's moving around. Difficult to say, but c'est la vie, you live and die by the sword, don't you? And I'm going to have to try and now source that shock jewel or even a donor movement to borrow the balance from. I'll persevere with this a little bit more, see if I can get it a bit better. I know you're missing out on all the juicy bits, if you like. The main part of this video really was just to show you some crazy watch with a crazy light. So let me persevere. Hopefully next time you see this, it'll look a bit better. So here's me thinking I got it better. Who am I trying to kid? It's all over the place. At least the amplitude's up a bit more now, but I don't know. I'm very disappointed. Realistically, I should just strip the whole movement down and service it, but I can't. I need to get that spring, so I'm going to rebuild the whole thing, and I want to see the light working. That's all I want to see. Back in the case, and what do we have here? We have better specifications. Look, dial up. It's a lot more accurate. The beater has closed up everything. I'm expecting to drop off any minute now, but you never know. I live in hope, and just as I'm saying that, it looks like it's dipping. Anyway, I'm going to at least say it's a win right now. But of course, there's one thing that you guys and I want to see the most. Of course, that's this light in the dark. Here we go then. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition. We have liftoff of the Sicura Jump Hour retro Futurama futuristic watch. And look how bright that light is. It's actually lighting up my hands, look. That is absolutely incredible. And never has a little light like that meant so much. All that work just for that. But then I say just for that, I've actually been online and I've been reading about these a little bit. Seems they were certainly one of, if not the first mechanical watch ever to have a light on it. Now, that's not much of a claim to fame because I haven't seen that many. I've actually only ever seen one other. But as this watch might be early 70s, so 73, 74, it could predate all the digital watches. I'm not sure when Casio and Seiko put their lights on. Now, I have a Seiko for contrast here. There we go. This one is from 1980. That's how bright that one shines. But I'm sorry, the Sicura wins all day long. Now, of course, it has got a bigger bulb. It's got two stonking great big batteries as well to power it. But I love this thing now. I really, really do. It's so interesting, so cool. Actually looks not bad on the wrist. So I'll show you that in a bit. But there we go. Mission accomplished. Here we are outside then, and I've got this watch on a time lapse so you can see it in action, and believe it or not, it's actually keeping good time. Now, I've had it on and off the wrist for over 24 hours now, and it's within half a minute. So that shock jewel maybe is actually okay. Now, the movement itself is an EB8461-73, quite difficult to find so far. Here's a shot of it on the wrist. I think it looks very space age, but you know what? I actually really like it. Really, really do like it, especially that little light there. Look at that. Brilliant. So this once Sicura that's been unloved, neglected, left in a drawer, is now amongst good company in my now rather big collection of jump hours. And there they all are. So obviously this one is going to be in a future video. This one is very, very special to me because that was given to me for my 50th birthday. And we've got lots of others to look at too. I've actually done a video of jump hours, which I'll leave a card up in the top corner for now. Albeit some of these weren't in that video at the time because I didn't own them. And a few are quite special. This one in particular. So this has taken me 3 or 4 years to find. Missed out on one a long time ago. It's called a Seitoko or a Satoko. Don't know how you'd pronounce that. And stainless steel case. Lovely one jewel pin pipe movement inside. But just look at the angles on this. Absolutely special. I had to find a bracelet to fit it, and I think that one suits it quite well. Really, really like that design. Very unusual on the wrist, as you can see. Well, they all are, aren't they, jump hours? But look at that. That's great. So as much as I don't wear these all that often, I do like to collect the unusual watches. That's why the channel's called Retro Watches. This is some of the stuff that I started on. All really, really great. I love the ones with a face. A bit like this sauna here. So it looks like he's got 2 eyes and a mouth and a nose or a mustache that's spinning around. And then my other Sicura, which I've been after a long time. Now it has got a fracture in the crystal and you can't buy new ones of these. But how great is this? You've got a running seconds. That's the hour, that's the minutes, and that's the date. So you've got everything you need to know, just that telling the time on it is not going to be at a glance. You've got to start thinking about what you've got to look at. Another icon. I never know why these are an icon. The Beulah Supernova. Again, one jewel pin palette movement. It is a big, big watch on the wrist. And these go usually in excess of £100 for good ones. And I still am yet to understand what's the fascination with this one. I mean, okay, I own it, but I bought it relatively cheap quite a few years ago. And I do enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but I don't see the fascination for the price point. While we might as well be showing them all, let's have a look at this other Beulah. This one is fantastic, absolutely bizarre in its shape. The way it sits on the wrist is just... well, it's just so 70s, isn't it? Let's face it. But what I love, again, is you've got running seconds. The running seconds are really, really unusual. So there we go. This is the one for my 50th. The LIP, L-I-P. And this is very special, very sought after, very collectible. My wife colluded with some of my Facebook friends in my group in order to get hold of this for me. Now, it does need a work. There is a certain problem with it that I'll talk about a bit more in the next video when I restore this bad boy. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching this video. Leave your comments below. I'll read every one. I'll be fascinated to know what you're going to say about Jump Hour watches. If you found this video good, then give it a like. That's going to help the algorithm. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. Plenty of videos, plenty of variety on this channel. If you want to support the channel in any way, you can buy t-shirts. So you could buy a t-shirt like this, or like this, or like this one, my favorite. Alternative to that, if you're getting into watchmaking, I've got a website with some tools on it. So they're just affiliate links from Amazon and eBay and such like, and that might help you get started. So I'll leave a link to all of these things in the description box below the video. So please be sure to read that. And I'll be back very soon for another video. And of course, that is going to be this one. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into that. So thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.